Hello, I am Stefan from mywoodcutters.com, and today's episode of Clean Armor wood finishing products, it's going to be a little bit interesting. You see here these two beautiful walnut boards, and I showed you already in another video how to finish them by hand. One I finished with the 700 interior wood finish in satin, and the other one with the 757 tabletop finish, or what we call the open grain finish, also in satin. And we continue to receive inquiries from customers all the time asking about, you always show us how to finish these pieces while laying flat, but what about vertical surfaces? Can we finish with Clean Armor also on vertical surfaces? And I have to be honest, in my entire career as a woodworker, and that goes back to 1985 or so, I never really finished anything vertically. And that is simply because mostly I build cabinets, and the interior of the cabinets I use a pre-finished birch plywood, just like this piece here. And then the outside, all the doors, crown molding, whatever, end panels, I just finish them while they're laying flat, usually with spray application. And so I never really had a need for anything vertical. I mean, of course, I understand if you refinish something in existing and you cannot simply take it apart because it would break it, because it's glued and whatnot. That is one case, or you build chairs and stuff like that, and you want to finish it after it's assembled. But however, the first thought that always comes to my mind is like, well, Clean Armor is different than other wood finishes in the respect of how it cures, and that is with the UV light versus other finishes where the solvents evaporate. But other than that, it's still a liquid that behaves like a liquid. So if you have a vertical surface, you put on too much, it will run down, right? So, but of course, if you are careful enough, if you know what you're doing, then it should work. So in today's episode, I'm going to attempt to finish these two pieces vertically. One actually by hand and the other one by spray application. You can see both. And for that reason, I just banged this piece here together out of some spare pieces of plywood. So I'm going to use this, and I have some double-sided tape on it. So I set it up a little higher, like that. And there we have a vertical surface now, right? And yeah, I will need to protect my table here with some cardboard because I don't want to get any of the stuff on my work surface, and yeah, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I brought the camera up a little bit closer so you can see what's happening here. And yeah, I don't really know at this point if this will work for me, because as I said, I've never finished anything vertically. I only have my theory. And by the way, everything that I show you in all of my videos, these are not something like set in stone kind of rules. These are more or less ideas and show you what you can do and so on. But use your own imagination, because as you know, there are many things in life you talk with a friend about and they say, whatever, this doesn't work for me, but it works for them. And then vice versa. You have something that works for you and it doesn't work for them. So find your own way, experiment, and you should always come to a good result in the end. So, as I said, I don't know if I'm going to succeed here, because this is my very first attempt. I never even tested this myself. And you currently have a big advantage over me. And that is because you already know that I will succeed, which I currently don't know yet. So let's get started. I'm doing the 750 sealer here first, and then followed by the 757 tabletop finish, because as I said, the other piece we are doing with the spray application, and 757 cannot or should not be sprayed. I'm going to use here as well, again, what I showed you in the other video, this paint applicator, with the pantyhose around, and that is still the way I left it after the last time I used it. So, but where we normally pour it on and then use this thing to spread it out, I cannot do this here, of course. So I use my microfiber cloth and apply it first. And that is one of the advantages there here when it comes to vertical surfaces with Clean Armor, because you are supposed to apply it very thin. 1 mil thickness is the recommended thickness. That equals 1/1000th of an inch. And with that, you should not even have any issues with runners and so on. And the other thing that is really great is, like, you know, we all have done vertical spaces. Like, I'm thinking of paint, for example, when I paint a wall or something, or whatever you do. And you always have the issue, you see a runner somewhere, and then you eliminate it, and then you think it's all good, and then you walk away and let it dry. And then you come back a few hours later, and then you find more runners have developed and cured. And that is not what can happen really with Clean Armor. Because you see a runner, you eliminate it, and as soon as you're happy with what you see, and that is always the golden rule with Clean Armor, once you're happy with what you see, that is when you turn the light on, not before, and you freeze it in place. Right? And that way, you never have the surprise that you come back a few hours later after it's cured and find more runners have developed. Yeah, so now I'm just going over here again to wipe it down even, and this is the same applicator, as I said, that I used in the previous video. It's still wet out of the Ziploc bag that I used here to store it in a dark place, and it will be like that, I don't want to say forever, but for months and months. You can pick it up again anytime and keep using it. So there's no need to clean anything on your tools. And yeah, and I really at this point don't see any difference to normal flat application. The only thing that I can see here now, of course, a little bit challenging, this is again a simple test where you have a flat board, but if you have a cabinet and you want to finish the interior, you have edges and pieces, so you cannot simply, as I do, go like this, right, and wipe it all the way off, because then you have to go really to the edge. And but again, with a little bit, it's a little bit more finicky, but you should be able to manage that with no problem. Okay, I am bringing my tools into safety from the UV light, because that is what follows next. Well, that's not what follows next. I'm actually a step ahead of myself here. As I always said, with the 750, actually with all the products, especially when it comes to the sealer, the first coat, you put it on and you let it soak in for a couple minutes and then wipe over it again. And the reason is the sealer soaks into the wood pores, and in these tiny wood pores there are little air contraptions, and the sealer now replaces the air, and occasionally you have some little bubbles come up, basically the air escaping from there, or while it's being replaced with the sealer, and it shows as little bubbles in the finish. So that's why we wait a couple of minutes, let that happen if it happens, and then we wipe it over again to even it out and to eliminate any of the little bubbles. But it looks good to me. I don't see any issues, but still I'm following my own advice here, and I just wipe it over again. Just doing the edges here as well. So, okay, good enough. So now, back in the Ziploc bag, put it away in the drawer. Make sure the bottle is really closed before I turn on the UV light. put the bottle also a little bit away. And then we take our Kuro UV light from at least 1 foot away and cure it. And I'm not going to show you the entire 2 minutes process because it's all going to be the same. I'm going to cut the video here. After that, I'm going to give it a quick sanding with 320 grit, and then we apply the 750 top coat, 757, sorry. Okay, so I have cured it and I gave it a quick sanding with 320 grit sandpaper, all by hand, very gentle, only in direction of the grain. I cleaned it off with air pressure, blew it off, and so now we're ready to apply the top coat, which is the 757. Again, I'm going to apply it first with a microfiber cloth before I use my applicator covered with a pantyhose. And always remember, before you use any of the Clean Armor products, you have to shake the bottle really, really well. I already did that before I started recording. So let's get started. Get some on my cloth and wipe it on. Yeah, it's so much easier on a flat surface where you can simply pour a little bit on and then you can wipe it down. But you could also use a brush, I guess, but I would be afraid a little bit of applying too much. With this microfiber cloth, you still have a good control of applying it as thin as needed. As I said, 1 mil per coat. And yeah, that seems to work fairly well again. As I said before, you have the advantage of already knowing that I will succeed, while I have no idea if this is going to work for me. And in case you're still wondering what the hell that means, how would you know and I don't? Simply because I only want to show you how you can achieve good results. So that means if I end up failing and it doesn't work out, then of course I wouldn't show you the video. So, okay, that's good enough. So I'm going to go over with the pantyhose applicator, just with very little pressure, just to even it out again. And what I explained before, we let it sit for 2-3 minutes because it's replacing air in the wood pores, which can cause a little bit of bubbles. This is of course not so much the case anymore because the wood is now already sealed with the sealer. But we still follow the same principle here, just to be sure. And so let it sit for a little bit and then wipe over it again. I will cut the video here, I guess, so I don't want you to stare at this for 2 minutes, and be back in just a moment. Okay, so this has soaked in now for a couple of minutes, and so now I'm going to wipe over it again with very little pressure. No more pressure really than the weight of this tool itself. So if it was laying flat, basically you slide over it without adding any pressure. You only want to spread the finish and you don't want to wipe it off. This already looks really good to me, but I must say that I have not the very best lighting in this corner here. I should have thought of that, but I still have a good feeling. Okay, that shall do it. I'll secure my applicator, including the microfiber cloth, again in the Ziploc bag labeled with the product that I used here, and I store it in a drawer where it cannot be reached by the UV light. And Now I'm going to cure this, but I'm going to cut the video there again when it's done. Okay, so I have moved my light here a little bit up and down. I mean, this 18-inch light from 2 to 3 feet away will actually cover an area surface of about 9 square feet or 3 by 3 feet roughly. But I still prefer to go like a 1 foot distance, and therefore I'm moving it up and down. Anyways, it's all cured now, and I'm going to put the light away. And now let's see what we got. I got a chisel here that I used just to separate it again from this board. And I'll lay it flat here and pick up the camera, get you closer just to see what it looks like. And I think that looks really good. Maybe I could have applied it a little bit thicker. I see here one little area that's again due to my lighting where there is not quite enough finish. So I should probably do another very thin coat. But I guess you get the idea. So no runners, no nothing, and nice open grain finish, similar as hard wax oils, except you have the protective surface film that protects the wood from chemicals, from water, and even very scratch resistant. Okay, I'm going to set up now for the other board that we're going to finish with spray application, and I'll see you then. Okay, I have set this up now for spray application here. Just want to quickly show you that how to do this as well. Again, I've never done it myself before, but I'm quite positive this should just work fine because we are applying it very thin as usual. Yeah, so let's get started. My air cleaner is already running, as you can hear. I'm going to turn my helmet on and turn that on as well. And I'm probably going to be a little bit muffled now, but just the way it is, because okay. And we start, of course, here again with the 710 sealer. And as you see, a very thin coat that should not even cause any runners. If you develop runners, then you are spraying way too thick. By the way, well, I cannot reach the bottom edge now, so I leave that away for now. The only difference here is, as I showed in the other part with hand application, we wait a couple minutes and then we wipe over it again and so on. Of course, you're not going to do that with the spray application because that would defeat the purpose of spraying to begin with. However, the same thing is going to happen, or will likely happen here, that the sealer soaks into the wood and will replace air in the wood fibers, wood pores, and little air bubbles might come out. It's not a big deal because we are applying here 2 coats of sealers, and you can of course sand in between the 2 coats of sealer just to eliminate any possible little bubbles before you apply the second coat. I usually find it's not a big deal. The air bubbles are so minimal, so I just go ahead and spray the second coat after curing this and then give it my 320 grit sanding. Usually I do it with the machine with an orbital sander before we apply the top coat 700. Okay, that's good enough now for curing. I'm going to cut the video here until when I'm ready with the curing process here. That's going to take a couple minutes. Okay, so I have cured this now for pretty much 2 minutes. It's all cured, wonderful, and ready to go with the second coat. And as I said before, these are all more or less ideas or, procedures how I use them or how I do it, but it's not necessarily the way that everyone should do it. I think my gun is leaking a little bit here. So find your own ways. For example, I know of some people, they would prefer, instead of 2 sealer coats, only do 1 sealer coat and then do the 2 top coats with the 700. You can certainly do that, no problem. And the only difference here is that I think in that procedure you will need to sand in between the first 2 coats as well. So if the first coat is only the 710 sealer and the second coat is the 700 top coat already, then I would definitely sand it in between these 2 coats, and then again sanding it after the second coat before applying the top finish coat. Okay, but I continue doing it my way, which is 2 coats of sealer without sanding in between. After that, I'm going to sand it with 320, and then we're doing the top finish. Okay, I'm going to cure this now. Again, in this case, now I haven't really let it soak for 2 minutes. But again, with the second coat, when the wood is already sealed from the first, you're not very likely to develop any air bubbles, and should be all good. Okay, I'm going to cure this now, cut the video here. Okay, I've cured this now for about 2 minutes. Anyways, it's all cured, hard, wonderful. And I will now go ahead and sand it with 320, as I said, and then I'll be back and show you the top coat. Okay, there we go. I cured it all off and then I sanded it with 320. In this case, again, I just did it by hand. Didn't want to dig out the big sander. Yeah, quick 320 sanding, and now we are ready for the top coat, which is the 700 in satin again, and I'm going to spray that on now. So my helmet on, and off we go. And again, a very thin coat. And by the way, we're using a fairly low air pressure, but you have to follow a little bit the regulations of whatever gun you have. Different guns have the best atomization at different air pressures. The lower the air pressure, the better it is. I have another gun that I can run with as low as 15 psi. I like that one. This particular one runs at 25 psi, but the nozzle diameter, oh, I have a little bit of a, what is this? Like a hair. That's no good. Yeah, the nozzle is always going to be best between 1 millimeter and 1.3 millimeter. Okay, that should do it. Take my gun away into my light secure little cabinet, and off we go with the curing. And again, I'm going to move my light here now for a couple of minutes, and then I'll be right back. Okay, I've cured this now for 2 minutes. It's all cured and hard. Wonderful. Okay, let's put the light away, and let me quickly get rid of my helmet and turn that fan off. And now let's see what we got. We got the chisel again to separate this. Oh. Okay. And there we go. That can go. And for the comparison, I also put the other piece with the 700 there, with the 757. And let me grab the camera and show you up close what we have. First of all, we have, maybe I shouldn't zoom in that much, we have no runners whatsoever. It's a wonderful finish. So I applied very, very thin. We still have here a little bit of an open grain effect. That is also due to the fairly deep pores in this walnut, of course. But with the 700 finishing coat, you can build up as many layers as you want. You can replace the 710 sealer with the 730 grain filler to fill all the pores to get a glass smooth surface. Now here again, in comparison what we have with the 757, you see it's more like an open grain finish. And yeah, but there you have it. Vertical finishing, absolutely no problem with Clean Armor. In actual fact, because you apply it so thin, you barely ever should have any troubles with runners or something like that. And again, especially what I like here is you don't even have the risk of runners developing while you're walking away to let it dry and so on, because that's not the case here. As soon as you like what you see, again, that's the golden rule with Clean Armor. As soon as you like what you see and not before, then you turn the UV light on and freeze it in place. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you again sometime soon. Have a good one.